Last November, Anthropic released a number of new beta features to solve some real problems we all faced when building AI agents. Tool definitions were eating up large amounts of context even before you sent your first message. When the agent executed a number of tool calls in sequence, the intermediate results from those tool calls was bloating the context even further. And as you scaled up the number of tools within your system, the agent really struggled to pick the right tool for the task. So these beta features help solve these problems, and with the release of Sonnet 4.6 2 weeks ago, these features were made generally available on the Claude API. In their original post, they demonstrated how these features helped achieve an 85% reduction in token usage, which led to some online to proclaim that Anthropic has killed tool calling, or at least traditional tool calling. And while that's a tad dramatic and definitely not true, two of these features, programmatic tool calling and the tool search tool, are really neat solutions that can be incredibly effective when built into any AI agent. And that's the thing, they're not exclusive to the Claude API, nor were they Anthropic's idea to actually begin with. These are core agent building design patterns that you can use in any framework or with any model. So in this video, I explain how these two advanced tool calling methods work, and I also show you how you can build them into your own custom AI agent, which is exactly what I've done here. I've built it into my system, which is a custom Python and React app that I've built out over the last 4 episodes on this channel. And I test out these advanced tool calling methods with the brand new Qwen3.5 27 billion parameter model. So as opposed to diving headfirst into the theory, let's demonstrate this in the app. And probably the simplest place to start is just to demonstrate the tool search tool. So even by just saying hello, we get a brief response back, but at the bottom you can see that we're tracking our context window for this session. We've already used 13,000 tokens. And to understand what's going on, if we jump into LangFuse, and if we have a look at this generation trace, you can see that 60 different tools are already loaded up into context. And while that sounds like a lot, it's literally just 2 MCPs. It's the Playwright MCP and the GitHub MCP, plus a few tools that I built out over the last few episodes. So the key aspect of the tool search tool is you don't load everything up front, you defer the loading and allow the agent to search for it. So it gives it an additional step. So I'll flag these MCP servers now as deferred loading, and let me just restart the server. And if I ask the same question again, so let's open up a new chat, type in hello, get a response, and you can see we're down to 6,300 tokens. And if we look at this trace, you can see we now only have 12 tools loaded into context, and the 12th one is this tool search tool. And this tool allows the agent to search the tool registry to discover and load tools by name or keyword. So to see the tool search in action, let's ask it to fetch the latest commit on this project. It's a private project, so it'll need to use the MCP. So you can see it's triggering the tool search now. It found one tool, which is the list commits tool. And then it has triggered it with the information on the repo. And there we go, we get the commit ID and information on what was committed. And if we check out the response to this tool search, you can see list commits is a deferred MCP tool, and it loads up the full schema for this into context. And now that tool is loaded into context for the rest of this conversation, so if I ask any follow-up questions, it won't need to search for it. Give me the second last commit, for example, and I can go straight to the list commits tool. So if we jump into LangFuse, in the first message that I sent, you can see there's only 12 tools available. And then after it triggers the tool registry search, in the next call we have 13 tools, list commits, and it's able to provide a response to that. And for my follow-up question then, we also have 13 tools available. So that in a nutshell is how the tool search actually works. So while that's quite useful, I think the programmatic tool calling is even more impressive. So if we go to a new chat, now we're using Claude Haiku here on OpenRouter. I'm going to swap to Qwen3.5 in a minute, but I just want to show you how this works with Claude models versus open source models. And for this, we're going to use Anthropic's own example that it published in its article. So here it gave an example of a budget compliance check. And then the question would be, which team members exceeded their Q3 travel budget? And there's 3 tools available: get team members, get expenses, and get budget by level. And it goes through the traditional approach here, which would be lots of tool calls with lots of intermediate responses that would bloat the context window. So I've got Claude Code to generate dummy data for this. So first, let's look at the traditional way to do this. So I've disabled the sandbox, and I'm asking my question now, which team members exceeded their Q3 travel budget? And we're using Haiku, as I mentioned. So it's carrying out tool searches, get expenses, get team members, And it's now working through this traditional approach, which is lots of tool calls. It needs to literally get the expenses for every single member. And let's see what answers we get. So Q3 travel budget analysis. We have 3 people that have exceeded their travel budget is what it's saying. And based off the test data, this is the correct answer. So we should have 4. So it seems to have missed Marcus Johnson has exceeded it by 1,700. So the traditional approach, which burned through a lot of tool calls, 56 tool calls in fact, as you can see here, it worked through 76,000 tokens, and it did not actually provide an accurate or at least a comprehensive answer. So this is the problem that programmatic tool calling solves, because all of this could actually just be scripted. Because once you know the team members, once you know the budget levels, then you can just run this in a for loop to get the expenses for every single user and calculate the actual overages. So let's enable the sandbox now and let's try it using programmatic tool calling. Okay, so sandbox is on. Let's restart the backend. Open up a new chat. Okay, which team members exceeded their Q3 travel budget? So it's doing the tool search. It found the 3 tools that it needs. Now it's going to code mode, and it's created a script that's going to be executed, and it has thrown an error, which isn't actually too surprising because it doesn't know the output structure of the tools. So it essentially can't one-shot it without having all of the information, and now it's just iterating on its own code to actually get to a result. And you can see it throws errors, and it's working through. And this is probably a more realistic version of programmatic tool calling compared to Anthropic's paper. Because I'm sure within Anthropic's paper it one-shotted it, whereas in reality it's not going to do that. And we have got an accurate answer after a number of iterations, so 2,200, Sarah Chen, Marcus, Alex, Emily. So we have all of the correct answers, which is great. But this is the reality of programmatic tool calling. It's quite iterative in its approach, much like Claude Code is or Open Code. Out of interest, let's just run it again and see, do we get the right answer and does it go down a different path, let's say. Yeah, interesting. This time it's actually getting the team members and the budget levels. So it's actually getting the data that it needs first, and now it's generating the code. So it could one-shot it this time. And it actually hasn't. It's still iterating on itself. And we do still have the right answer. So we are getting the right outcome in each case. There's just different paths to get there. So let's look at both of those traces. So in the last one that I ran, it was 6 rounds of calls, 12 tool calls, total prompt tokens 58,000. Now, if I was to follow on this conversation, I'm only at 13,000, but this is across 6 rounds of back and forths with the LLMs. And for the previous one, it was 116,000 prompt tokens across 11 rounds to get to the right answer. So I'm definitely not seeing the 85% token saving that Anthropic have reported, but it's very specific to the use case. Here I'm working with 20 team members, for example. If you had 2,000 team members, it would be a completely different story because the LLM would need to run 2,000 individual calls, which just wouldn't work anyway. So in that situation, programmatic tool calling is required. Or you would just need a proper endpoint where the actual data processing is happening on the server side and you're just getting the information and rendering it to the user. So this really gets to the heart of the topic, which is, should your LLM actually be doing the data processing ad hoc like this? Or should it simply just be relaying the information from a pre-created script that's either, let's say, in a skills folder, because this is what we built out in the last video, an entire skills section where you could have a Python file that actually does it once it's created and tested and verified, or you could have it at the tool call MCP side and it's simply just relaying the information as it comes through. So let's swap out Claude Haiku with Qwen3.5 27 billion and let's just see how it actually compares. So I'm running this on the network here. It's using Ollama. I have a 100,000 context window length. So I have an RTX 5090 here, so it's 32 gigs of VRAM. So let's save it, restart our server, and let's ask the same questions. Which team members exceeded their Q3 travel budget? It's taking a minute to load up because it needs to load the model into memory. All right, it's triggered its tool search, and then it's jumped straight into generating code. It's not actually outputting text in between the tool calls, but you can see that it's generating the code itself. And it's going through the same iteration process that Haiku did. It's learning from the errors and building out as it goes. And here we go, there's our answer, and let me see. Yeah, 2,200, 15, 17, and 300. That looks accurate. I think that took less tokens than Haiku, which is very cool. Let's jump in and have a look at the trace. Yeah, that was 45,000 tokens to get to an accurate response, which is pretty cool. It was only 4 tool calls, which is pretty good. This is the 5th video in our AI Builder series, where we're building out a fully fledged AI system using Claude Code. The PRDs for this module are available in our public GitHub repo, while the full course and codebase are available in our community. Links in the description below. So okay, how does all of this work? Because you can see that we're triggering code execution here in a sandbox, but what does that actually mean? So this is a fully local system. I was using Haiku with OpenRouter, but now it's using Qwen3.5. There's kind of docs and RAG built in here, which is using a Qwen3 embedding model. So this code execution that you're seeing is triggering a sandbox in Docker. So you can see all of these containers have spun up. Now there's a few orphan containers here because I keep restarting the backend. But generally speaking, code execution happens within an isolated sandbox here. And a key part of the security of the architecture is the concept of a tool bridge. So end to end, when a user asks a question, it hits Fast API, which hits Python, and then that relays to the AI model, either remote or local. We get back a tool call, which is you need to go and execute this Python code. At which point then the backend spins up a sandbox container. Now I went through the setup of this in the last video, but essentially we're using this GitHub repo, which is LLM Sandbox. And this is a very lightweight portable sandbox environment that you can use with the likes of Docker, or if you're not using Docker, you can use Podman. But essentially this takes a lot of the complexity away of spinning these things up. They support multiple languages, lots of different advanced features. You can pre-warm containers as opposed to spinning them up on demand. You can have custom images. There's a lot of good stuff in this. So I'll leave a link for that in the description. I went through it in a lot of detail in the last video. So essentially, we trigger the creation of that container, and then we pass in the code along with a session ID. So now within this container, we have a Python runner, which is going to execute that code. And in our example earlier, there was lots of different tools that needed to be triggered. Get budget levels, get departments, get team members. And all of those could be in, let's say, an external system. But we don't want to give the sandbox access to external services. Instead, we create a secure tool bridge back to the Python app. And then every time the tool or the function is triggered within the Python script, it has to go through that bridge. And as you saw earlier, there may be 50 different API calls or tool calls within a single script. So for each of those tool calls then, it goes through the bridge, it uses the session ID to authenticate itself, and then the Python app routes that call to the external system, gets the response, and sends that back into the sandbox. So the sandbox has no internet access other than hitting the Fast API in this Python app. And then from a security perspective, you can lock down that Fast API based off the exact schema of the tools themselves. So all of those tool snippets, those tool definitions, are stubs that are sent into the sandbox on creation. So the multiple tool calls happen within a for loop, for example, within the Python code. And this is blazing fast because you're totally ignoring the LLM at this point. There's no intermediate code clogging up context. The LLM is totally out of the picture here. At which point the LLM finishes the script, generates the response, which you saw earlier in the demo. And that response then looks something like this. There's our script result. And then that's fed back into the LLM. And the LLM can then decide what to do next. If it has everything it needs, it can generate the synthesized response and send it back to the user. Or as you saw in the demo, it had to iterate on the code itself. In a lot of cases, it was generating more code and triggering the sandbox again. So that's the end-to-end flow. I have gvisor mentioned here because Docker containers are not the most secure, isolated sandboxes you can have because they share the kernel with your host system. So to really secure the likes of LLM Sandbox, I do recommend that you use it with gvisor. There was some interesting research done by Cloudflare on how effective LLMs are at either producing the likes of Python code or TypeScript versus triggering tools and MCPs. And they found that agents are able to handle much more complex tools when they're presented as a TypeScript API as opposed to the standard MCP. And I think that makes sense because they're just trained on so much vanilla Python and vanilla JavaScript. So in Cloudflare's version of code mode, the same as what we've created, they convert MCP schemas to TypeScript. So the LLM is just generating TypeScript to trigger the MCP. And that's very similar to what we're doing. So I mentioned how the tool stubs are being sent into the sandbox. So our MCPs and tools that we have defined at the agent level, they're converted into Python stubs. auto-generated Python functions. So then when the AI is generating the code for the sandbox, it's just triggering Python functions. And because it's vanilla Python, it's going to be really good at doing that. And importantly, the sandbox then never sees API credentials. It never sees secrets or anything like that. I hinted earlier at the idea of needing efficient tool design, because in the early days, there were so many MCP servers that absolutely just clogged up your context window and you couldn't get any real work done. Even in Anthropic's own article, the challenge they were trying to solve was around bloated MCPs. Here they mentioned the GitHub MCP has 35 tools and 26,000 tokens. But even since this article was published, GitHub released a newer version of their MCP, and that number is now around 4,000 tokens. So a lot can be done on the MCP and the tool calling side to make sure that you're not unnecessarily adding bloat to your context window. And finally, another feature that Anthropic included in their advanced tool calling toolkit is this idea of examples of tool use. Because while a JSON schema excels at defining a structure, it can't express the usage pattern. And they give the example of, let's say, a due date, which is of a type string. There's lots of ways you can pass in a date format. So which date format in particular are they looking for here? The LLM will have no idea unless you actually guide it. So with tool use examples, you can provide an example for each field to send the LLM in the right direction. So here, for example, it's year-month-date. And in their testing, they saw that this improved accuracy from 72 to 90% on complex parameter handling. And that makes sense because it's essentially just multi-shot prompting. You're just given an example of what you're looking for, which will absolutely steer it in the right direction. In reality, I don't know, do you need to set this up as a completely separate feature in a system? I think using the concept of skills means that you can provide it examples when it loads the skill, which could then trigger the order of execution of whatever task you're trying to achieve. And you do find that a little bit with Claude, where there's a lot of overlapping features. And the reason Anthropic have not killed tool calling is because they talk about how you should layer the features strategically. So if you have context bloat from tool definitions, tool search. If you have large intermediate results polluting context, go the sandbox route. Or if the AI is constantly sending in the wrong values into parameters, then tool use examples make sense. If you'd like to learn more about building production-grade AI systems, definitely check out our community, the AI Automators. I'll leave a link in the description below. We've got 3 live workshops each week. We've got lots of courses and resources that you'll find useful when you're building out your systems. If you'd like to learn more about the agent skills system that you saw in this video, then check out this video here. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.